2 minutes after the
I
birds
couldn't.
would go off.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, that.
Did you hear me? Okay. I need to see it and hear it after last month's incident.
And the bird one was always wrong because you had to sing the right bird, the right third, and of course
The
there's
sound,
always
the
the
audio
audience, like a
wasn't
little robin.
recording, so they could see our lips move for a while, and then he was in the other room. We got a text from someone else that the audio wasn't. It's 6:00.
I know, I could have learned bird calls if they were.
All right, 6 o'clock. Call this meeting order. Start with pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to order. I'm sorry. Roll call.
Alexander Woods,
Present.
Michaela Conlon-View. Here. Casey Weiss,
Here.
Jeanette Pennington. Here. Nick Helsted,
Here.
Iftikhar Memon,
Here.
and Caitlin Cunningham. Here.
And has this meeting been properly notified?
Yes.
Thank you. No public comment tonight. So moving on to 6.0, community engagement, gifts and grants.
Sure. So first of all, we've had a generous donation from Alex and Timber Woods for $365 for the school forest. I don't know if that's $1 a day for the year. I'm uncertain, but we very much appreciate that. I also included in your packet the verbiage from a grant application, and I realized when I was asked to sign the assurances for this that we've kind of fallen out of habit of bringing all of those grants to you. We always make you aware if it is a new endeavor, but our reapplications to grants that we've already had, they just make it really difficult now. We used to be able to download a PDF of everything. It is all website based now. If you write any grants for any government entities, it's painful. You have to copy and paste your text for every single question individually. However, I just wanted you to be aware of how many grants we do currently have operating. So this one is specifically meant for early childhood education. This will be our 3rd year of this grant, and it is extending up to kindergarten, and it is really all about social and emotional regulation of our youngest learners who are struggling to do that. So this is just the application. We have not been awarded the grant. Those you do always see when the grant award comes in. So just making you aware, and if you have questions, please let me know. So the social studies department asked if they could be rescheduled because they weren't in today.
Okay, sure. All right, so moving on to 6.2, board self-evaluations.
Yeah, so I had 6 out of 7 of you that have filled it out, and I guess last time you just agreed that you were going to take that evaluation document. I guess I thought it would be a good time to talk about what are you going to do with that information once it is gathered. So if you would like, I can put it up there. I can tell you in the past, we have had a special board work session in which you review the data, and we've used that as the springboard for goals moving forward. What are the specific areas? So this is kind of like a temperature check of where the board currently sees themselves. What areas is this collective group interested in improving, right? So knowing how you all feel you're doing is one thing. Identifying areas that you'd like to actively work on to get better would really help in steering professional development for the board. So
I feel it's not really the most appropriate for a monthly meeting.
okay.
You know.
Yeah, I agree.
Special or.
Okay, can you give me a timeline of when you would like that scheduled? Are you wanting it before April elections, after April elections?
I think before new board members, like would make,
Start. Yeah.
like
so-
before new board members start, I
Okay.
think would make the most sense to have sort of a strategic plan for outcomes of those things.
And so I would have to double check, Marty, if you can help me remember, new board members are sworn in but can't be seated before the fourth Monday in April.
It's like the
Yeah.
23rd.
So typically, we've done the swearing in at our monthly board meeting, and then they take their spots the following week, is what I believe happens.
I believe that's correct.
So that gives us, we have 2 more weeks in March, and then April to schedule that. Is a doodle poll the most effective way to find a date?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. And if the one remaining person, I can't see who it is, just to be clear, I don't know who didn't do it, but if we could get all 7, that would be great.
Alright, moving on to 6.3, school board engagement with the community.
So this is an outtake from the Legislative Advocacy Committee, and Caitlin and Michaela were both there. Jeanette was unavailable that evening, but is planning on being a part of that committee. I will leave it to you ladies to talk a little bit about summary of our conversations. Unless you'd like me to summarize first, and then you fill in.
Wanna go? I think what we kind of concluded was, especially with the referendum coming up, just our engagement within the wider community is going to be a huge component to becoming a little bit more actively engaged, but that wider engagement is kind of the area of our focus.
And being more visible to the community, being more present at some of the school functions and things like that, to be more accessible to the community. One of the other things that we had talked about was that quite odd, I would say some people don't even know what I look like, and so having a sort of meet the board kind of maybe I think we had said maybe something on Facebook or something like that of a little bit about ourselves as board members, a picture of ourselves to let the community know who we are so that they can come and engage with us as well.
So when it's School Board Appreciation Week, Julie Tiedens always says, hey, do you have a picture of the board? And I'm like, I don't. And so I have individual pictures of some of you, but not all of you collectively. So perhaps we could take some individual photos either before you leave. Tonight we could quickly snap them, and then we could put them on our website so that if people do go looking, they can put a face with the name. And as I see Patty there, I'm reminded there was another time that we purchased shirts, Tiger shirts that said, it had our logo and then it said school board members, so that when you do go to a basketball game, of course Alex has a more humorous version of this shirt, but
It doesn't have a collar, it's not dressy.
this, your choices, but this one did have a collar so that you could wear them and people would immediately recognize you as a board member so that they would feel comfortable coming up and asking questions. And the reason I was picking on Alex, he has a t-shirt that he wore to, wears to several school functions that say, bug me, I'm on the school board, which the intention is the same, right? That people know that you are open to dialogue and would love to hear their thoughts about the work of the district. So if I could just paraphrase briefly, the committee started as a legislative advocacy, and that is still part of it. There's not a lot happening with the legislature. They're kind of closing down for the session, but we did talk about while it would be great if more board members were interested and able to go out and learn from other school districts and from outside learning, outside of our community. Sometimes if you have nothing else to compare things to, you don't have any idea how other boards operate, it becomes tougher to evaluate if we're doing the right work or if we're not, right? And so that is step one. But we also talked about how important it is to just make sure that our local community understands the work that we're doing and the work that you think is important, and that you're wide open for their feedback and input. So a broader scale would be great, but we need to at least start locally.
Shelley.
One of the things, sorry, we also had mentioned was I was giving out cards for a while, call your legislature, we need our special ed funding, and I would just hand them out to whoever was willing and able, and seemed semi-interested, but being part of the community allows us to have more conversations about that and allows us to become part of how we interact with the greater legislative process. So go ahead.
Years ago, they used to do in the yearbook a photo of the school board with the superintendent, why, is there a reason why we cannot do that? Because
No, there's
parents
certainly,
look at the yearbooks.
there's certainly no reason we couldn't. I will just say, that wasn't a recent change, because that has, in my
Yeah.
13 years, it's never happened, but I'm very confident it could. Even on our website, I think it would just be nice if each of you, because your contact information is already there, so if there was a group picture.
Right.
And even if highlighted every once in a while, on our social media, I think our marketing department does a great job, and so if your pictures are there every now and then, and maybe there's a topic coming up that you're interested in feedback, that is really quick and easy way to do that.
Could we add it to the, so I've been trying to give stuff to you guys for the school paper too. The Tiger
Yep, the Tiger Tribune.
Tribune. Could we do like an intro to like, you know, when somebody comes on board, like maybe the new people, we can introduce them there so that there's a photo and like a, hey, guess who we get to
Absolutely.
invite to our party.
Yep.
Anything else on school board engagement?
Does our subcommittee intend to meet again?
I believe so, yes. We did not set a date, it was kind of topical at the time, so.
But yes, I think that would be it.
Can we just remember the people who may not have internet services, elderly people, how we will get out? They're still eligible to vote, but I think there's another way that we can get out the board members, because when there's referendum or elections, and I just had an elderly person ask me, well, is there a school board election? And so I shared with her who was all running. So they're not looking on the internet, they're not
We
looking
don't
on our
really use-
website.
As a district, we don't usually, the TCO hosts the candidate forum. I usually help facilitate that so that they, the organization of it, not the night of it. And I think the Banner Journal has asked for articles in the past. Did they send out questionnaires?
Not this year, not from them.
Just last week, they asked me for contact information.
Oh,
of the
okay.
new people.
Not the incumbents?
Nope, just the new people, and then the courthouse also publishes the ballot, the sample ballot, so that's listed who's running, it's listed
So-
in the newspaper too.
So why were we not given the opportunity?
That was the Banner Journal calling us, so
Maybe they had your contact information from when you ran the first time, because they
They
always.
would have used, I don't know which one they would have used.
So my point is, the
Yeah.
district doesn't
I'll find
advertise
that
the
out.
election,
I'll
I
find
guess.
that out.
Okay. And then the focus on purpose, as I said, because it was a no school day, several of our middle school social studies teachers have quite a commute. And we decided early this morning that they shouldn't drive in for the board meeting when it can easily be put off for another month. So you will be wowed in April.
Alright, moving on to 7.2 then, employment recommendations.
I would just like to highlight Mr. Tony Berger. Tony was hired in Black River Falls 32 years ago and taught social studies at the high school for the majority of those years. The last few has been an instructional coach at the middle school. He's been heavily involved in a lot of our cultural work with the Ho-Chunk Nation, and is just really widely respected in the state and certainly in our community as well. For a while, he also taught at WTC before they changed the requirements that you had to have a master's degree in that content area, as opposed to a master's degree in general. So we really appreciate Tony. Ironically, his wife works here, his son works here, so they definitely came to Black River Falls and made this place their home. And so we wish him a lot of happy years, because he certainly earned that.
His wife still teaching.
Yeah, his wife Allison still teaches third grade, and then his son is a special education teacher at the middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
so
can
that-
remember, I was part of one of Tony's first classes
Oh,
when he first came in, and part of JV baseball at that time when he was coaching. So that's a few years ago, but Tony, if you're listening, thank you. Thanks for all your years of service, and thanks for the impact that you've made on this community and all the kids. It's not unnoticed. So,
thank you for that.
I move to approve the employment recommendations.
I'll second that.
Okay. A motion and a second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Would it be like worthwhile to maybe, as a board, think for people in like a more formal way for their retirement and maybe a welcome to the new hires?
So we usually, when we do our spring banquet, they get a plaque from the district. And so if there was ever board members that were interested in coming to that, that is May 6th, you could happily come up front and help award the plaque and cheer them on. And our new staff, we have a breakfast here at the district office. Nicole is going to look up the date of that right now. But we have invited the board, but it's at a time that I'm not sure works for everyone. We've gone all around in how we welcome those new teachers. We used to invite the new teachers to come to a board meeting, and there was like a little reception beforehand. I don't know how that feels to them to have to come to an extra meeting at night before they know anybody, but it was a means for them to meet you. We've done breakfast on that first day, or I'm sorry, breakfast. We've also done a lunch on that first day where they're already here for their first day in service stuff and trying to bring board members in then. If you have thoughts or ideas, even if there was a welcome, we have those good news cards that the board members used to utilize and write out. I probably haven't brought those forward in a while, but we print them and it says, it's got a cool picture of a tiger on the front and it says good news from the board. And we could certainly, if people want to take turns handwriting welcome to the new staff, we'd be happy to mail them for you. But if you're interested in that outreach, we definitely can find a way to make it happen.
The new teacher breakfast is on August 19th.
And would it matter to you guys if it was breakfast or lunch, or your availability would relatively be the same?
Breakfast has worked out well for me.
Yeah, you have
for
come,
the last
yeah.
2 years,
Yep.
so, yeah.
Prefer to keep that? Anyone else have a preference?
You said August 18th.
18th or 19th?
19th.
19th, August 19th. Thank you for looking that up.
Can we maybe do rotational months so each one of us gets a chance to write those good old like cards?
How about we start with me printing some and having them here for you next month?
All right. Let's move on then to 8.1, parental opt-out of human growth and development procedures.
Sure, so I included in your packet the letters that were prepped for the middle school and high school. The high school very quickly after the board meeting had a brand new health class starting, and so they sent it out just for your information. There was 2 families that chose to opt out of chapter 2. There were 0 families that chose to opt out of the entire human growth and development section of health, and the middle school has not sent their letter yet because that unit doesn't come up until April, and they were waiting until the unit was closer before they sent the letter out. Nick had called to put this item on the agenda as he wanted to talk about some other ideas for putting the letter forth for families. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I guess I didn't know you guys are starting already this year, but anyways, my thoughts were, especially for like freshmen, parents are very involved in their child transitioning to the high school, usually I think.
Some.
And I guess I'd like them, when they're signing up their kids to be a freshman, to like opt in or opt out one way or another, so they're making a choice, not just, oh, I didn't know that I need to opt out, there's no excuse. They're signing a piece of paper, in or out.
So we call it passive permission, meaning if you want to move forward, you do nothing. If you don't want to move forward, you have to do something. And so you are suggesting that it is active permission, a parent must sign regardless.
Yep.
What does the rest of the board believe?
I agree. As Nick, I was unaware that we were starting for third trimester. I was assuming the way we were talking, it would not start the new curriculum until the fall of
Did we say something to make you believe that?
You never said that we were starting this now.
Did we say that we weren't though? I guess I'm just confused.
Whenever we do a new curriculum, most of the time it's for the next year. And So I guess, because nothing was said about it, and we did talk about, Nick did have a conversation regarding, the opt-out, that, I mean,
So that conversation happened outside of the boardroom, though. Whatever you guys talked about, that opting out, that didn't happen at the board meeting. Okay.
I'm saying it happened, I didn't say it happened at the board
Yep.
meeting. But what I'm saying is, when we had the meeting, even the people that were on the Human Growth and Development Committee, who watched the board meeting, did not walk away thinking it was starting third trimester, that it was going to start at the beginning of 26 and 27 school year. I guess 2/3 of the kids had one curriculum already, and now the last third of the kids are gonna have a different curriculum. So my thoughts, my feelings were, why would we do that? Why would we switch? And we can't compare it to a math class because math and health are not the same. But there was nothing mentioned, and I assumed, along with other ones, that this was going to be in the fall.
So I guess I'm struggling with the relevance of why that matters when the district did what they needed to do to communicate to the families, and the families already made the choice, so.
Because
does
it
it
does matter, it's transparency. There were people that were on that board that had that sat with us on the committee, whose kids are freshmen and had no idea until Mrs. Penza put out her newsletter and read it. That's why.
That's communication.
Which came out 4 days before the trimester started.
Still communicating.
It does, I don't care, you guys act like nobody else works. And there are parents that both work in this family and families. And you can sit there and laugh, Casey,
I
but
can,
this
because
is
I
a deal.
think, Jeanette,
This
you're
is a
bringing up
big-
something that right now is so, like, it is a waste of time to bicker over it because the district did what they needed to do to communicate it. The families got the information, they got to make the choice whether their kid was gonna participate or not. It doesn't matter if it happens tomorrow that they started it, as long as they
Why
have it.
did it need to start right away?
Doesn't matter.
There was no reason behind this.
So if I
What
could
does it
just
matter?
offer one thought, the reason the Human Growth and Development Committee came together is because there was dissatisfaction with the curriculum that they were using. So I just want to bring us back to the very beginning. Why are we talking about a different curriculum? Because we don't like what we currently have. So just to be clear, that is part of the why we picked something different, right? So the reason all of these things happened because we were looking for something different. So I agree, it's not like math, but also it was a unanimous decision by the board. I don't understand what was going to change for next fall. I also don't understand that. So 6-0, board decided we were going to go with this new curriculum. I don't remember any conversation about not doing it till 26, 27. I'm at a loss for what would have been different if it had been fall.
It is. To me, it's a big deal. But I guess to nobody else, it's not. I feel that it is. When you start a new curriculum, 2/3 of the kids learn one way, and now 1/3 is gonna have a different set of curriculum. Why would you not just continue with the last curriculum for the year, start something new for the next year?
There are times a teacher goes to a training and the next day brings something new back to the classroom that they didn't use in their classroom prior. I can just say that I think instruction is changing all the time. Teachers go to one of their PLC meetings and they talk to others about how they presented material and it went better there, and so they make some adjustments and bring that back to their classroom. Even if it is the same resources being used, those two classes could have also been very, very, very different from this third class. So I think that we change a lot of our instruction, a lot of our resources, all of those things do adjust. I feel like we did what we said we were going to do, and I'm sorry if you heard 26, 27. I did not hear any conversation about when that was starting.
I didn't hear anything, any dates were not given. And I think that's where I'm more frustrated with the fact that the least we could have been is that this is going to start at our last board meeting. We plan to start this at the next trimester. That was not done. And
But the families with kids in the class did get that notification.
through an email that she sent
And
out.
then the health class sent out their email.
Not
So-
everybody, not all parents got that email. The way that I heard about was through Miss Penza's newsletter, is how a family found out.
I feel like maybe.
And they're one of them that were able to opt out.
I feel like it's important to remember the role of the school board is to set the trajectory, the overall policy that's the guidance. The implementation isn't, is oftentimes much more at the discretion of the administration, from my understanding, as a delegation of duties. Is that incorrect?
You are correct.
It's the same way I see it. Like, we just said, you made a decision, they can choose when they're gonna go with it. So,
Could we return to Nick's issue, which is the opt-in versus opt-out issue? Do we have any other policies where someone has to actively opt into a class?
All of them?
No, no, no.
Well, you could choose what classes you're going to.
But parents don't have to. A kid can sign up and a parent can never look at that. Is that factual, Mrs. Penza? Yeah. Kids can register all 4 years of high school without a parent ever having to engage. And I'm not,
Yes.
we encourage them to, yes. I'm not arguing, I just wanna make sure we're speaking from facts. That is 100% the case.
Well,
That
I just think it's a very transparent way to do it. And, you know, can't have anybody saying, oh, I didn't know that, and I didn't want my kid to do that. Cause they're, hey, you signed right here. It seems like it's just a clean way to do it.
Ultimately, parents are adults. Period. Like, we cannot coddle and handhold every parent in this district. I don't see why this would be any different from any other class. Opting out is an option for the parents that want to do that, and they can do that. I don't see why we would need to change what we're already doing for everything else.
I also feel like a lot of the parents that have an opinion on this, and we heard from a lot of them when we discussed that issue, have a very strong opinion about this and are very motivated to opt their kids out if they don't like this material. I think they're usually pretty aware of this issue. In fact, I think they have their finger on the pulse of this issue more than the average parent. I think they're a very informed and very legislatively literate and savvy group of people. I think we hear from them a lot. I think they contact their school boards a lot. I think they know what's up. So I would be more worried about the average parent who's not paying attention missing their kid getting human growth and development curriculum because they didn't actively sign up that they would take it. I would assume that the average parent would just assume that this is a thing their kids would get. And so having to make everybody opt in, we had 2 opt-outs. Having to make 2 people opt out is less onerous than making everybody else opt in. So just from a what's best for the largest number of students, I don't see a need to make that change. And I do respect that this is an issue that's important to people.
I also feel like you're opening up Pandora's box of administrative curb, because what's gonna happen is, like, inevitably is half the parents aren't gonna sign that day. You're gonna end up spending copious amounts of staff time running around trying to get into contact with people because you're required now to have these 2 different things, and without them we can't start, and with them they can't blah, blah, blah. I just think it's a really messy way to, if you do not opt your child out and that was your intention and you're not paying attention to what your kid is doing, that is on you. That is a consequence of your lack of parenting, and then that's your consequence to own, so be it. So I feel like it just seems like a lot of work for people who already have the ability to do the job that if they so choose. So yeah, that's my take.
So with the intruder awareness training, lockdown drills and stuff, we get an option to opt out of those because they're scary. And I've thought about it because they're scary. I don't really want my child going through life feeling like they need to worry about armed intruders busting into school. And I've never done it. I've let them take it, but I don't feel great about it. But we do it because it's mandated by law. Would we be legally allowed to require parents to opt in to lockdown drills? Because human growth and development is also mandated by law. So would we even be legally allowed to force parents to have to opt into it?
I don't know that legal answer. I would have to look it up.
it just seems that there's some equivalency there. These are things that we are required to do. And we are also have the ability to let people opt out of both of these things. But I don't know that we have the ability legally to force people to have to opt in to take them. So again, it's just a very convoluted issue that I don't think we have to touch.
If I could just ask for some clarification from Mrs. Penza before we go any further. Mrs. Penza, I am aware that it was a quick turnaround at the beginning of the trimester, and Unit 2 literally is 1 day of instruction, and Unit 2 was like day 2 or 3 of the class, so it was a quick turnaround. You sent out a newsletter to all high school families that said this is coming. And I understand what you're saying, that some people, that's how they saw that because they read that first or whatever, but the parents who had a child in 9th grade health, our Skyward messaging system sent them an email with the form attached. Is that accurate?
Correct, that's accurate, and it went out the afternoon that I sent my newsletter. So I sent my newsletter, I just got it done a little earlier than anticipated, and then they sent it out that afternoon, probably like an hour later.
And so when the teachers use Skyward for their notification, it is the kids enrolled in that class at that time. And I'm just gonna add my little 2 cents. The reason that I think that is desirable versus in August when you're signing your kid up for school is if that parent has any questions, that email comes directly from the teacher who's teaching that health class, so they can ask any questions for clarification then, as opposed to August when they're at home, and if they call the school, they're gonna get the secretary who doesn't know any of the details about health class. I feel like it's a conversation better placed with the teacher who teaches the content, and that wouldn't happen if it happened in August. You
And
can
can
certainly,
Sorry.
no, please go ahead.
Can I just add something about August registration? Like, we historically our families are not great at doing the registration in August. So we are doing field trips. Our 9th and 10th graders are going to Winona State University and WTC on our ACT day. And I just had to contact 39 families because part of our registration is that they opt into field trips. They say yes or no, my kid can go on a field trip, and we had 39 families not fill that out. So if you're talking about engagement, that registration process isn't that time where people are really reading that or signing those things. And so really what Shelley's talking about is having them do it at the time that their kid's going to be in that class and get to talk to the people that are going to know more about what's actually going to be taught, because that historically is pretty low, that August registration process.
And if the board would feel better about putting forth a guideline like 2 weeks prior to the unit being taught or whatever that may be, you're certainly welcome to do that if that would make you feel better that both parents may be working and may not be as responsive to an email in 4 days. There are other ways to still have it be a professional dialogue between the teacher and the parent if the timeline is what is concerning to you.
I feel you need no more mandates on this issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you got a kid that's enrolled in school and communications are being sent by the district about decisions that are meant to be made with the parents' input, it's your obligation as a parent to do what's right for your kid. So pay attention, check your emails, do the things that you're supposed to do as a parent to make sure that you want your kids to be part of the things you want them to be part of. And if you don't want them a part of it, opt them out. It's your right.
Yeah, I guess I can see like dealing with a teacher not in August, because I don't know, but I just like the transparency and the factor of it, like, you know, like somebody can't go back, it's like, I never wanted my kid to have that class, and then it's just like transparent, and it's, but I get what you're saying, Casey, too, but we know that that's not always the case.
Yeah, I don't think we should cater to the people that don't put the time into their kids' educations.
I also don't think it's a lack of transparency. Like, this has been extremely transparent. This has been all over. Like, the entire community knows about this. That is not a lack of transparency. A lack of communication on the parents' part is not a lack of transparency on the part of the school district. And having the opportunity to opt out is an option that they are given. It goes, that notification, that is transparency, that is communication. it's on the parent. At a certain point, like personal responsibility, it's like just communicating, but it is not a lack of transparency.
Alright, anything else on this? Seeing none, we'll move on to the 9.1 monthly expenditures.
Alright, so this was in your board packets. I think there's three graphs that I always kind of include, but the one that's kind of the most beneficial to look at is usually the one that compares the previous 3 years, where currently the blue line, you can see a little bit of a jump from January to February. My analysis of that is in the month of January, we tried to postpone any payments that we could, because January is a tough month for cash flow as we're waiting for tax settlements to come in. So we're trying to mitigate those expenses and push them on to February when those tax settlements do come in, which is why you see a 6% increase from December to January, and then a much larger 9% increase from January to February. I want to just make it very clear, you can see that our trend line right now is trending higher than we were at the same point last year. That means that if we were over budget last year, which we are trending in the same spot this year. So I just don't want anyone to be, I want everyone to be informed now rather than in June.
I'm guessing we're susceptible to increases in the price of fuel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yep, and so up until now, fuel we've been pretty much right on, and then for the remainder of the year, we'll see. Electric has been running much higher this year than last year, and then just a lot of the fixed costs, whoever knows. So we're 56 expended through February. It's a little bit higher. One of the biggest trends that you'll see is our trend line kind of floats along with where we're sitting in salary and benefits, because salary and benefits makes up 76% of our entire budget. So if one of those is going up, chances are our entire budget is going up. So employee benefits continues to be one of the highest drivers of this. You can see here in the benefits area, activity and revised budget, 65% expended compared to a total budget of 56% budget. Part of that reason, more people are accepting our district insurance plan than anticipated. More people chose our plan to start this year or in mid-year than what we were anticipating. Some of those people turned 27 and no longer on their parents' insurance, or they lost coverage in a different spot and had to pick up something, and so they joined ours. And then a change in insurance carrier this year has had a few unexpected expenses as well.
When was the last time we did our insurance evaluation?
Last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, so it's our first year with this insurance carrier this year. Yep. Any questions on this?
So I'll make a motion to approve the expenditures from the previous one.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second for the monthly expenditures. All in favor of approving the monthly expenditures, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to 9.2, budget recommendations.
All right, so we looked at this a little bit last month as well. And so the setup of this is we put our original revenue limit budget. So that is what the state says that we are allowed to have for a budget in our Fund 10 expenditures. Last year's versus this year's, and then the increase. The increase is based largely on the $325 increase per student. And then we do some adjustments that are kind of fixed, not much we can do about. And then one of the things that I did add in here from last time was teacher retirements of $60,000. That is somebody like Tony Berger, who has been teaching for 32 years. His salary is not going to necessarily be the same as somebody directly out of college. And so that is a savings on one retirement. And then we have a few retirements. So that is where those come in.
Yeah, how many in total is that then, Brandon, do you know?
How many retirements?
Yeah, is it 2?
Right now, I think we have 5.
5?
I think. Yeah.
And so that 60,000 is for everybody that we know, not just Tony.
Right.
Sure, just, okay.
Last month, you did approve the increase in building and allocation budgets. And then we have a few things that we would like your action on tonight, 3 through 10. I just have a few things on each of them that I can run through. Summer school budgets, prior to this year, federal ESSER funds, we have been, prior to ESSER funding with the COVID years, we had been going over budget in our summer school budget. And then we were able to use some of those federal funds from ESSER to help with our summer school budget. On top of, we also had some grants that we wrote, kind of talked earlier about the grants that help support summer school. Those are now all gone, and so we need to do something so that our summer school budget isn't continuously going over. And so that is listed at a $30,000 increase. Our transportation budget, we have an aging fleet that requires consistent repair, either by us or through a purchase service. And so it is the recommendation to increase the transportation budget for those repairs, catch-up, and inflationary costs. Number 5, increased maintenance costs. This gets coded to Kent's budget and has a lot of fixed costs to it. Kind of just talked about it a little bit, electric, utilities, but even as down to monthly pest control, garbage, general maintenance. You know from your own budgets that these are not going down. Kent's budget has consistently been in the red, and then we need to add more to it to avoid going over budget. This, along with bidding out for what we can, should hopefully get us back to a better place. Kent and I sat down and just looked at a couple places where we could potentially see if we can get a better rate someplace else with a different company, and so we'll be reaching out to those people. Number 6 is insurance liabilities, liability insurance, property insurance, workman's comp. Again, none of these things are going down in price. Property insurance especially has skyrocketed in the last 5 to 6 years. And so we're gonna look at the end of this month or early next month, the possibility of switching. I'm not putting a lot of eggs in the basket that even if we did switch, that we'd necessarily get a better rate, because just the insurance companies they can do what they can do, how much they can, and then a lot of people just have to kind of eat it. So
Our experience isn't good.
yeah. Number 7, EBC, increase in employee benefits EBC. I'm going to try and explain this one, and then Dr. Severson and maybe Marty can help out if we need to. You heard me mention earlier that insurance benefits are a huge driver of our insurance and costs related to it, and we've had some unexpected costs. Our insurance plan, we have a high deductible insurance plan for a family that's $8,000, but it's structured so that the first $2,000 is the responsibility of the employee. However, we give each employee $1,500 in an HSA. So $2,000, $1,500 in an HSA, they're responsible for $500. And then it gets to the next level of the $2,000 until $6,000, and that is when EBC, or Employee Benefits Corporation, which is funded by the district, money that we set aside, takes care of an employee's medical needs from the $2,000 to the $6,000 range, before going on to the next level, in which our insurance carrier Anthem would take over from there. And so what we've noticed this year is our EBC is getting eaten to a lot faster. When we switched insurance providers to who we currently have, there's a much smaller list of prescriptions that are allowable costs at a lower rate. And so we're seeing those prices go up in that EBC area.
Can I just make a couple
Yes.
corrections? So it's an HRA, not an
Thank you.
HSA, so it's a health reimbursement account, not health savings account. And the numbers that he gave were for a family coverage, not for single coverage, just to be clear. And I just wanna point out that we capture savings in premium by going to the high deductible plan. So our premiums are less the higher the deductible is, but we don't want to pass all that cost on to our employees. And so that is why we use EBC to pay those claims as they are incurred. So the first money comes out of the employee's pocket, and then EBC picks up it's kind of this pool of dollars that exists to pay claims as they're incurred until full insurance kicks in. so that we get the savings from a high deductible plan. And last piece, this is our first year with Anthem, and so we've gone through the money faster. We've talked to their underwriters, and they believe that we got there faster this year, but they're not convinced that it necessarily is going to mean more people are going to get there by the end of the year, just maybe that they met their full deductible sooner than they did previously. This is our first year with the plan, and so we won't know until June 30th and all the numbers are in.
Were there quite a few like exceptional circumstances, or was it a pretty typical?
So the problem with Anthem is we are part of that co-op we are part of 22 school districts are part of the insurance co-op, and so we don't get to know a lot of our detail stuff, and so this is, he has the health insurance benefit increase on there. We are capped at 9%, he's estimating 8%, we haven't gotten our renewal rate yet, so we are definitely not looking for action on 1B because we don't even know what that rate is going to be. I'm fearful it's going to be 8.5, but we are hopeful that it's going to be different than that, so.
What was it last year?
So last year we moved from Security Health, where people had a choice between a narrower network with Gunderson or the broader network that was Gunderson and Mayo. And we captured about a $200,000 savings as a district by transitioning to Anthem. So there wasn't an increase because we completely changed our whole plan and provider and all of those things.
As well as everyone in the consortium, all
Right,
22.
right. Yep. So we each can do our own plan design, like HRA or HSA, and how much. Each gets to do that individually, but the vendor that we all go with has to be the same from all the districts.
Okay,
Okay, sorry.
that's good. No,
Other than that, you nailed it.
I was thinking to myself, what did I do? About 85%.
I think you.
Number 8, district dues and fees. This isn't a large pot of money. I exit out of it now, but in the graphs that I showed you, it's the 900s object. It's not a huge pot of money. However, we're overexpended in it and have been consistently for a few years. This in the biggest area is for district dues and fees. Things that go into there, a lot of Andy's athletic budget for participation in invites, wrestling invites, track invites, all of those sort of things, but also background checks, physicals for our drivers, those are all fall into that category. So we want to be able to present to you in June a balanced budget and try to stick to that budget throughout the year. We went over last year, as I mentioned, and are projected to this year. And the only way to get out of that is to reduce spending when we can, but also put more money in the pots where we have been historically over. And so that's why you see those additional increases to that budget. The other side of that is in order to present that balanced budget where you have to do some cutting to get there. And so number 9 is reduce 1 FTE teacher, 5th grade. Right now, 5th grade has an unusually large class of about 130 to 135 kids, whereas current 4th graders going into 5th grade is about 110. And so we can reduce 1 5th grade teacher and still keep our class sizes at 5th grade about the same. Additionally, when those 5th graders go on to 6th grade, our class size recommendation, or what we try and stick to, they still fit under that for 6th grade. So we can reduce 1 teacher and still stick to kind of where we want to be, or right around there. In addition, you saw the employee recommendations. We had a 5th grade teacher who recently resigned, so we don't have to go saying, hey, it's gonna be you. We already have that out. And then number 10 is elimination of student accident insurance as a cost savings. This is a supplemental insurance that parents can, if the kid gets injured at school, we give them the sheet that the company that we use goes through, talks them through the steps in accident form, and then it's the parent's responsibility to call that company to see if they cover anything that the family's insurance doesn't cover. So it is supplemental, it is underutilized, and there's not a lot of districts that carry it.
Is that related to athletics too then? Or is it just, it's any sort of injury that could happen to a student?
Yeah,
at
so
any time?
what we carry is just for during the school day. It doesn't apply to any athletics.
Okay.
As Brandon said, he's talked to several of his colleagues and there's very few that offer it. I think it was probably more relevant way back when we started it, before every family was required to have health insurance for their children. It probably was the only insurance for some kids back when we started it. So to Brandon's point, he very appropriately placed it. We have all of Jill's years of experience. We were able to know which budget centers were likely to be negative by the end of the year. And so we would pool those end of year funds when all the buildings were done spending. She would fill all those holes. But that also leads to why we were never able recently to buy a bus out of end of year funds, because we're filling all these holes. So Brandon and I went through the whole budget and looked at the areas that historically have been in the hole the last couple of years and are intentionally filling them with dollars moving forward. Hopefully, this means that we could possibly get back to end of year funds in the future, being able to support that second bus every now and then. But at the very least, it will help to prevent us from going into a negative balance as our fund balance continues to reduce over the years.
Do you need a motion?
Need an motion on 3 through 10.
And if we could just talk for one moment,
Yes.
if we could, I just want to be really clear. So the increase in salaries and fringe, we have that hole that we have to fill is 100% guided by a 2% salary increase. I just want to let everybody know how we typically have done that. So we have a couple different pools. So we have a pool of teacher salaries. If the board were to approve a 2% increase across the board, we would take the total price of all the teacher salaries and multiply it by 2%, and that creates a pool of dollars. We would then take that new pool of dollars, that 2% from everybody, and we would apply it to everybody who's moving down steps, and that usually takes about 1.5%, and then we would take the other 0.5% and we would make each step a 0.5% larger. That same thing happens for support staff, for support services, and for administration. So each of those pools of dollars are independent of each other. And when you approve whatever percentage that's going to be, that is how we determine how big the hole is that we need to fill at the bottom. And so we said that action would be appreciated, but is not required. I will tell you, the admin team has been meeting very regularly because we have $176,000 in the red on the screen. And so we need to know what that target is for the remaining reductions. So if you are interested in accepting the 2% salary increase, it would be great for us to get a nod or formal action on that, so we know where that hole is on the bottom. If you are willing to vote today, if you're not, that's fine. The rest of the steps, I always say that if you have questions, we're not going to push you to action before you feel ready, but some of these are pretty they're time sensitive for the whole budget process, but they're also not very, we're not like asking you to cut a program. We're not asking you to, do things that are going to be super concerning to a lot of people. So I just add that, and if you want to have a conversation about the salary percent increase, the admin team would greatly appreciate knowing what you're thinking about that so that we have some idea moving forward.
Your alternative is to give no increase at all?
Every single percent is, or 0.% is a choice, right? Like we have all the percentage, all the options. We are not at the CPI increase right now. We're slightly above this. Last I saw CPI was 2.7 for the year.
Yeah, and we're at 2.
Yeah.
That's
Last year we were at 4 and CPI was slightly below that. So we've got a chart over the last last 10 years CPI, and we are above sometimes, below sometimes. We average out over the course. We're pretty darn close to CPI over the whole picture.
When did you find out the health insurance?
We should know the beginning of April what that
Pretty
health.
soon. That's a big piece of the puzzle there.
It is, and so
But we have to
8%.
cap it, yeah.
Yeah, 8% was the hope. We were capped at 8.9. Our preliminary indications are going to be like 8.5. And I think that's kind of where it's going to stick. And so we were hoping for 3%, and then we would have money to play with.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen.
Okay. So when you create that compensation pool, do you reduce your retiree salaries out of that before you create the percentage, or
No, because we have that separate line item up there.
Okay, so you take it out that way, but.
And so much hiring happens
Yep.
from, like, Dan has just hired our first teachers for next school year, on some openings that he had. And we usually wait until like early October and we do a shoring up of all the people who left and all the people that we hired to make sure we're gonna be able to, it's sustainable for the year and not have to take money from any other pots, so.
I mean, you had a good year last year of being able to kind of attract talent and
Yes.
tenure talent, right? Do you think that the 2% comp increase is going to potentially cause some people to start looking elsewhere?
That is my concern, and I'm also very concerned that we are considering an operational referendum. I feel like living within our means until the community gives us permission not to matters a lot. And so that was where our 2% recommendation came from. We look at our comparables, we just did all of the support staff, when we break it down by actual job, like our nutrition services, our bus drivers, our clerical, and they rank us of all the 26 schools in the CISA. And there's a few of those subcategories that we need to, they're gonna get more of the 2%, and there's some that are ahead of the regional averages that they'll likely get less of the 2%. So we really try to do that balance. If you approve a 2%, not every person sees a 2% increase. And our teaching salaries are starting to drop it. I mean, we're starting to lose ranking. There's many districts that don't start below 50,000, and we have 4 steps before 50,000.
A lot of those districts operate within the budget override though.
Many of them are, yes. Many of them are.
So that's something that can be brought into that referendum piece, and if the community chooses to help support the people, then, yeah, okay.
So, I don't see a reason to leave you hanging on that. I would support going forward with 2%. I don't like it. I would like at least to hit the 2.7 CPI mark. It feels pretty scummy not to. I mean, we pay for inflation for gas, we pay for inflation for everything else, and our teachers are the most important thing we got, and they get chopped liver. I would hope that our teachers understand that if we're going with 2%, it's not to reflect on how we feel about our teachers, but because the administration has recommended it in order to attempt to demonstrate how we are just doing everything we dang well can to keep this district afloat currently. I would make a motion to move forward on proposal items 3 through 10 and also to approve the 2% salary increase.
And I just want to broaden, I appreciate your sentiment, and I would broaden it that it truly is every employee group. So teachers, use loosely, support staff.
Yes,
I just
my
want to be really
apologies,
clear
that's
that-
just
no,
ignorance on my
No,
part.
I just want to be
Yeah,
clear
no,
that
absolutely.
it is every one of our employee groups.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve items 3
Can I
through.
ask a question? Sorry, I'm like not quite, you guys, are we still?
Let him finish
Yeah,
this
you can.
thing and then we can have discussion.
Items 3 through 10 in item 1A. Is there any debate?
What steps or what other options would we have to increase from 2.0 to 2.7? Are there other things that you guys have looked at in terms of cutting back expenses?
So yes, we do have a list that is going to come to you at some point with some other recommended reductions because we're still in the red pretty significantly. And I feel it's responsible that we don't just try to break even with the 175 in the hole, but that we also do a reprioritization all the time, just because this is the last thing we added does not mean it's the first thing to go, right? We have to look at what is serving us well, what is helping us reach our goals with kids, and those are the higher priorities. So there may end up being some new additions that we bring to you as well, because we think they're pivotal to student outcomes. And then that onus is on us to also bring you additional reductions to balance that out. So when you see all of those things, and we make I feel very strongly, as does the rest of the admin team, we would never put up on the screen a reduction before we've talked to all the people that are going to be impacted by that. So the whole 5th grade team knows that that is on the board tonight. Some of the other possible reductions, the admin team is in the middle of prioritizing as a team. It may sound like that should be easy, but when you have people that live at the high school trying to help decide what is best for Forest Street, it takes lots of education and conversation and opportunities to ask questions and learn more about it. So we try to get a unified front from the admin team first, talk to all the staff involved that this may happen, and then finally it comes to the board. So by the April board meeting, you will see all of our recommendations, and at that point you can decide, I don't like that, I do like that, I don't like that, and I'd like more money going on the 2%. So all of those things will still be open. Right now there is a motion to accept the 1A. That doesn't preclude somebody, when you see the rest of the budget picture, from saying, I would like to move that another whatever gets added to that. That is all within your rights to do.
So so we're clear, if we were to vote the 2.0 and then do that assessment in April, we'll be able to then, regardless of the fact that we've had no board change, go back and amend that?
Correct.
Okay.
As long as it's somebody, Robert's rules,
No.
somebody who votes, it's if somebody who votes in the majority can make a change to the motion.
Is there a reason, I mean, when would you said by the April board meeting? Is it possible to wait until we have all the data together? Things that are not, that may be eliminated, to discuss and to vote on at that time?
Everything is possible. Is there something up here that you find concerning?
No, I'm just thinking, instead of having to discuss it again, could there be a separate board meeting to discuss it when we have all this information, like a special meeting, just for finance, being able to approve it? And that way then, items that you might eliminate would already be in, and we don't have to do any amendments to the previous motion.
To be honest, everything is possible. Let me start by that. And as I'm sitting here thinking about Robert's rules, I don't think anything precludes somebody from saying, I make a motion to increase the salary pool of dollars by blah, blah, blah. I don't even think it's an amendment. I think it's another motion that adds to that. So that's my guess right now. I will check with Robert, with my guide, but I don't even think that's a change of amendment to a motion. I think someone can say, knowing all this now, I make a motion to increase that. So
Yeah, it's an entirely different motion.
that's what I believe. But so to your point, there is no need. I said in my notes, action is appreciated but not necessary. Every time you approve things, Brandon and I did some study. We went back to the last couple March board meetings, and you guys have chipped away at pieces of the budget, because every time you approve something, it gets that date there, and then when we go back to the admin table, those are off the table for discussion because it's already been decided. So
Okay, any further debate?
And just real quick, off the top of your head, do you happen to know like how much money is currently going towards the defeasance on an annual basis right now?
Did you say defeasance?
Yeah.
This year about 3.4 or 340,000.
340, okay.
But
Alright,
that
that's
is
fine.
that is Fund 39, and it doesn't touch anything here.
No, that's fine. I'm just curious what that dollar amount is, the total piece, so, okay, thank you.
So if we did borrow from our defeasance,
we cannot.
Cannot.
For
we'd
any
have
of
to,
this.
Not for
right,
any, that doesn't.
we'd have to do a little, yeah, something like a. Call it I was free.
So legally, we cannot take from
Right,
any levy in
I'm
39.
just saying you could use your, you have to do the,
I'm sorry, I don't know how to help.
can't you, what's it called? The voting.
Referendum.
Oh, the referendum?
Referendum,
Yeah, yeah.
I always forget that word. solidly complicated.
So, because you just don't like them, right? Nobody likes
That's it.
them, as much as we didn't have to do that.
Just saying, isn't it a possibility to use a referendum to take the defeasance to compensate like those
No.
cities?
That is not lawful. The community already voted and approved those facility referendum, and basically what they approved was the issuance of debt.
Okay.
So that debt has been sold, all the money has been used to build the facilities, and the money that's in that, I'm gonna call it a defeasance fund, right? So there's extra money in there that we have already levied for, and we're gonna make a big payment this spring from that. That can only be used for debt payment. It is unlawful. The community only said you can charge us for this for building, period, to issue debt. You cannot use it for anything else. We can ask a new referendum question that says, can we, and so then it's a referendum not to issue debt, but to increase our operating revenue. So they could put a question on that says, we approve the district to levy an additional $1 million this year for operational expenses. So the question they approve has to be exactly what you're gonna spend it on, as opposed to anything less than. Which everyone appreciates that clarity.
I just thought you could referendum like taking out of this pocket, using this pocket.
Not
This-
in government finance, it is very clear.
Crazy. Alright, any further debate on this? We have a motion and a second. Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving items 3 through 10 in 1A signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
To
More to come on that for sure.
monthly meeting minutes, 10.1.
So I'll make a motion to approve previous month's meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay.
Freeze.
Debate? All those in favor of approving the February meeting minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, we approve the meeting minutes. 10.2, district administrators report.
Alright, just 1 second while I grab the screen for Brandon. So when we were sharing with you guys, last month, I believe Nicole was sharing with you some data charts that, were part of our next path, and so I'm gonna call them dynamic charts because you can click and learn a lot more than when you get something printed on a page and it is flat, there's nothing else that you can learn from it. And so I know that the board had been asking for additional financial information. Brandon kind of landed on those 2 charts that he just walked through with you, which are fantastically helpful. But I also wanted to show you some of the other data that's available. I feel like as the board continues to learn more about school finance, and is wanting to be able to talk to our community about what we spend, how we spend it, and how we compare to others, it would be helpful to give you some of this comparison data. So we are you've heard us use the word Baird before, Baird Financial Advisors. They've been with the district for 20 plus years, and they have something called Baird Analytics, and we just wanted to share some of these with you. There is no action, this is just for your information. So I'm gonna walk you through a little bit about what you're seeing. Brandon is gonna chime in and help me out as we go by. So first I'm gonna start by saying there is so much available in here. Our hope, especially on a night when we didn't have a 3-hour meeting, and I jinxed it, I know. I was hoping that we could just take some time to explore a little bit and then tell you some of the other topics that are also available so that perhaps we could do some new learning each time that we are together, as opposed to anything less than. So first, this is revenue and expenditure comparables for the year. So what this is Fund 10, so just as a reminder, that is our general fund. That is the flexible one that we use for all salaries, benefits, all of that stuff. And 27, which is all special education spending. So that has the special education, salaries, benefits, all that stuff. And this is a percentage of our total expenditures. So what you're seeing right now is Black River Falls is here, and it has us compared to the Cooley. I've checked over here just salaries, so you look at this and you'd say our salaries are 52.1% of our overall expenditures, and you can see Arcadia, GET, whatever, you can see how close they are. OPEB changes it just a little bit. You see that we got a tiny little slice on top there. Oh, I can't even highlighted, there we are, 0.5% for OPEB, just to be, this is my opportunity to make sure everybody understands. So it's other post-employment benefits. Prior to 2014, we had in our teacher handbook that said, if you had been in education for 25 years and in the school district of Black River Falls for 20 years, upon retirement, age 55, you received, it used to be more, most recently it was $7,000 a year for 5 years for health insurance costs. So 25 total years, 20 Black River Falls, you got $7,000 a year for 5 years. That is a post-employment benefit that exists. In 2014, 15, gosh, I'm not gonna remember the year, I will look it up for you, we switched to an active benefit so that we stop this OPEB liability. So this is looked at as purely a liability. We can't control how many people are gonna be eligible for that. So any given year, we could have, $60,000 due to this reason. So that is OPEB. We are no longer paying into that. The money that we have in that trust is enough for all of the people to retire that we drew the line, and so now it is an active benefit for the rest of people. Then WRS, you can see our little pie changed a little bit again, so another 3.5% goes to WRS. You can see Social Security adds to that, so 3.8% of our overall spending goes to Social Security. Life insurance, we didn't change. Health insurance, check this out. So this, now we jump to over here, this is a tool that we can use when we are looking at our health insurance, and it says, we have a really good benefit, but look at, we're paying a higher percentage than everyone else in our CISA. This means we better go back to the drawing board with health insurance and say, we gotta figure something else out because we can't be paying this high of a percentage. So something as simple as a click, and it gives us all this information to help steer our financial planning. Other insurances, it's just a tiny little slice. Other benefits, where did Black River Falls go? We had a teeny little slice. It's a 0.5% there. Utilities, you can see added on. Pupil transportation, again, a small slice. Debt, those would be our facility referenda that just joined with debt. Insurance and judgments added on. So again, these are just tiny little layers here. The Fund 27 transfer, so our money that we have to take from our flexible Fund 10 into our 27 special education. Look at that. So 11.3% of our overall spending has to be transferred from our flexible account into Fund 27 to help support our special education. It should make common sense to us that our percentage is higher than the rest of the people in our region. Our percent of special education students is also significantly higher than our peers in the region. I'm not going to kill you with this all night. I only have 4 more charts. I was just hoping that you find this helpful, informative. Okay. So then we're going to go.
Can you very quickly take the 14.7% for insurance and turn that off real quick?
Yeah. If I put my cheaters on, I can. The health insurance, there you go.
So that
And
really
so we
is,
jumped right back here.
Yeah, we're right back to where we started. So even with the increase for special education transfers, we don't move until you add health insurance costs in.
It is definitely one of our most well, that's the one that we were most out of line with the rest of them, so that makes sense, right? We are the most out of line with that. I do think our special education transfers
Is
also
big as well,
and we're gonna find another chart that also speaks to that. So sped transfer, here's my next chart. Okay, so what this is telling us is, here we are on the top, and this is our total number of special education students. So it is 329 special education students. You can see the rest of our region. West Salem has considerably more students than we do, whereas the rest of these, we are bigger than Westby and Viroqua. I think Arcadia, we're real close to Arcadia and GET, but you can see that our number and then our transfer is just at $3 million that transfers. What you see down here is Fund 10 to 27 as a percentage of our Fund 20 expenditures. So of all of our special education spending, 60% of our special education spending is coming from our Fund 10 or general fund. So we are supplementing 60% of those accounts. And then the other one is as a percentage of our Fund 10. So this is saying 12% of our entire Fund 10 flexible spending account is being transferred to be able to pay for Fund 27 special education. Then
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Baird will not be able to answer. So
I take
looking,
notes.
well, specifically, having just had to deal with open enrollment, what seems like 5 minutes ago, although I'm sure it was longer than that. A 3% increase in cost for your insurance does not equal a 3% increase in quality. Do we have any way to compare the quality of coverage or the employee satisfaction of the coverage that we're getting by going to Anthem Blue Cross versus our old plan or these other schools? Because if they're spending 2% less of their budget on health insurance and have crap health insurance, I don't care. I would rather give our employees good health insurance at a good rate. So Baird is only going to show us the cash.
Correct,
Do we have
correct.
some?
So that's-
I mean, like I said, I just did open enrollment. It's almost impossible to compare these things. But do we have some way to look at the quality of coverage?
So that,
I was at the CISA 4 board meeting and we were talking about insurance, and it's been really an interesting, like, especially coming back here, being like, oh, got it, that's how that goes. Because I think there's a lot more struggles than across the CISA 4 and wider districts with insurance. It's kind of like the game of whack-a-mole right now because of these 3-year rolling evaluations. People can have circumstances that throw them totally out into left field, so the expenses skyrocket and services have to remain the same, and then the inflation and the cost increases. So I think there's a lot more to it, and I'd say it would be very hard to like compare. But Shelley, you're more knowledgeable than I am.
no, you're absolutely correct on all those points. And I think that what is even challenging for us is trying to figure out just a cost analysis of if our plan is, so here's an example. Our teachers pay 20% of their premium, and in a neighboring district, they pay 0% of their premium. So some of our teachers are like, I'm paying 20% every month for my premium, and down there, they pay 0 premium. Yep, and you can be disappointed in that, but then if you add the next layer, they have a $5,000 deductible, and we have a $6,000 deductible, but you're only responsible for 500 of it. Oh yeah, that changes the story a lot, right? So because every district wheedles out their plan individually with what they can afford and what matters most to the people that gather for the insurance committee, it's hard to compare apples to apples. A few years ago, CISA worked hard to try to get all insurance costs into a chart, and we were like top middle. We were like middle, upper side, certainly not top, not by a long shot, but it's hard to try to put all those together. As far as satisfaction, when our insurance committee comes together, because of where we're located, we get carpools from Eau Claire and we get carpools from La Crosse. So what is valued often is the wide network availability. So some of the districts who are able to make it more financially sustainable can pick a single network and then get a bigger discount. And because we have so many coming from La Crosse, Mayo is so expensive, and people that choose Mayo, that is what's killing our plan. So last year when we were still with Security Health, we're the southernmost district in our health insurance co-op, and those that were further up, they carved out everyone. It was a simply one network, and it was just Marshfield. They saved so much money, but it was Marshfield Clinic, period, end of story. And so when we talk to our employees, the opportunity to choose provider has been a really high priority. So that's not total satisfaction. I was mad when I went to the pharmacy in July and had to shell out all the money, right? So people get frustrated with it as they learn to use a new system is really what it was. They hate change. They would love to stay where they are.
I just appreciate if we keep that piece in our brain that they can go to Mayo. That's no joke. You know, we're not just shipping them all to Marshfield. No offense, Marshfield. I know nothing about the Marshfield
it's
system.
about choice. It's not about the system. It's about choice.
Yeah.
So a couple things. When we switched from security to Anthem in that $200,000 savings that Dr. Severson mentioned before, we would be talking about a referendum a year earlier if we wouldn't have captured that savings, right? And the other thing I was just going to mention is the big trend right now is going to self-insured insurance plans for the district. It's really a mixed bag. Because you can have a really good year where everyone's under wherever you balance for, and then you can have a year where there is 3 or 4 things that cost a lot of money, and then you're, you know, not looking so good. And so
It's extremely hard. It's so unpredictable because you get like 2 people that get cancer, and you're screwed.
And so there's self-insured, and then there's districts that are fully insured, but it's just them, and then there's us, the consortium. It's kind of a
So the.
Before we went to the consortium, we were a single district bidding, and our increase that year was going to be 22% increase because of our district experience. And we're like, we can't take this up and down, right? And we're considered large size for the consortium. It's all these really small districts who insure 100 belly buttons, and so then you get one significant illness and it can cripple their plan moving forward. So we joined the consortium to try to level out the highs and lows. We've just never had a low. It's just constant increase.
You said we're the farthest south district
Yeah.
in the consortium, so that would mean that the rest of the districts that you're comparing yourself to, none of them are in that consortium, correct?
Right, none of them are in the,
They're all south.
Arcadia's with us, sorry. So my geography might be off, or
Very
more south than us.
No, but I'm just curious, so
Yeah.
Arcadia is the only one that's part of the consortium.
Correct. And because there's something about you have to be, it doesn't matter, but a neighbor was with them and then they went off by themselves, and we actually reached out to them because we wanted to talk to them about their self-insured, and that individual said, we just hit a 200% loss ratio this year, we're going back to something more stable. So
That has been the message from CISA for people or
Yep.
districts that are trying that it's very short.
Yep.
And so the folks that work at CISA 4, they have to have their own insurance too, and they went self-insured, and they are getting bit by it right now, so.
they're bitter.
But unfortunately, it's not gonna get any better.
In general, it's hard to beat the house. The insurance companies are the house. They know the odds. They've got this, that's their job, and it's gonna be very hard to beat that.
And so they, Anthony just walked us through their analytics of the price we paid versus what they were going to do, and we beat every benchmark, just about every benchmark that they set for us in the first year. Now, it's not really apples to apples because we have nothing to compare it to since it's our first year, but the benchmarks that they did set, we did better than all of them. We were thinking, heck yeah, we're gonna get a 3% rate increase, and they're still gonna give us an 8.5. Because they can.
You had mentioned earlier, because we're part of the consortium, we can't get our individual numbers, can we call and just ask?
So she gave us some overview, like she was able to find out if it is mainly prescription, so she could give us like
Broad
emergency room visits versus that should have been primary care, like that, she can give us that kind of theme feedback, but yeah.
And we work with one company that a broker that oversees all of them, and then they kind of bid out and say, well, if we did this, do that, they kind of give us some ideas.
Is there things that you can share with the staff then? Because obviously, like their choices and what they choose to do, I mean, can very much determine like the increases that
Absolutely.
happen. And I'm not saying don't utilize your health care, it's part of your benefits, right? But I
But
think,
use them smartly.
I think a lot of people don't, they don't treat it like it's an open market and you can go to different places and find it better. It's just, well, this is what's closest and this is where I'm gonna go to, so.
I will say the number of times I've had to take my kid to the emergency room and said, I wish that could have been primary care is numerous.
Yeah.
You don't really know.
With the addition of
time.
telehealth though, that
Okay.
could cut down on some emergency room visits if people are willing to utilize it. Okay, thank you for that discussion. I want to talk about this one because it's very important. So I keep talking about the transfer of Fund 10 to special education, but I also want to just talk about the idea that it's not that we're providing a Cadillac service for our special education students. We could and should do better by them as well as all of our students. What this is telling us is the per student with disability, and look where we are. So we are about 9,000, we are spending about 9,000 per student with disability, and only Arcadia is less than us. It goes all the way up to West Salem with 12,700. So I want to show you this because I keep talking about how much we transfer into special ed, but it's not that we're creating this Cadillac special education program. We are still spending less per special education student, as we, just like we are spending less per general education student than all of these people as well. So I just wanted to point that out because I don't want people to mishear that or misunderstand that. We just did some Fund 80 work this year, and so I thought this would be interesting for you to see. This chart over on the blue side, so I'm going to remind you, Fund 80 is our community service levy. This is what is currently funding a portion of our activities director. It is our community education, and it is helping to supplement the Little Tigers Child Care Center and just a teeny tiny little sliver of the CHW. So this chart on the left, your left, sorry. That was silly. This is the Fund 80 fund balance. So what this means is we levied for it, because the Little Tigers Child Care Center was originally levied for in fall of '24, and then we didn't open until June, and then was levied again in fall of '25 when we're fully operational. So we have a little bit of a fund balance in Fund 80, which means we won't have to levy as much next year. So this is our fund balance in Fund 80 as compared to Viroqua, Galesville, blah, blah, blah. What this side is this is the mill rate for just community community service, sorry. So I thought this was interesting. In Arcadia, for their mill rate, $1.39 is all community service levy, Fund 80. In Viroqua, it's $1.39. In Black River Falls, even with those additions, it is 35 cents of the mill rate, and then West Salem has 11 cents for the mill rate. So I thought that was interesting comparison for how that Fund 80 is serving our community.
Which of those 6 districts then, Shelley, which ones have child care center?
Um,
Does, correct?
Arcadia does.
Is that it?
I think Viroqua does. West Salem does not. GET does not.
So that's where theirs are high as well, is there?
Possibly. Viroqua does. They've got a lot going on down there. They've that Organic Valley. They do a lot of community education and a lot of really cool things. So this is some of our other funds and the fund balance. So Fund 46, this is the long-term capital maintenance fund that, again, we used to, at the end of the year, we would put money in here because it was a place that we could spend money, still get aided on it. We haven't spent it in recent years, but it is down to $53,000. This is 25, 24, 23. In 22, when we were working on the Forest Street project, there was a large lead paint abatement that was not in the original scope of the project, and it was about $200,000. So we had some money built up in there, and as you can see, it is dwindling. Our intentions are always to put end of year money in there, but we have ended at a deficit the last couple of years, and so that hasn't happened. Fund 46 is also the transfer, that would be the same thing. We haven't added any money to it in recent years, which is what we just talked about. Fund 73, is that OPEB?
OPEB.
Yep, so this is the OPEB. We currently have $1.2 million sitting in our account. That is, we are required to do an actuarial study on our current staff that benefit has been promised to and how much money we have in there. We no longer have to make payments into that trust. And the people that were within 10 years of retirement, there is enough money in there. Our hope is that by the time all those people retire, there will actually be some money that can come back to the district, but we no longer have to make OPEB trust payments annually.
Is that Fund 46 something that we should be slowly trying to build back up?
So unfortunately, we're at a place where our fund balance is going down as well as this going down. And here's my 2 cents on that. Our fund balance is flexible. We can use it for anything that comes up during the year. And we have board policy that says we will maintain 21% of our operating budget in fund balance. We are below that right now. We are at about 16%. That should be our first priority to fill that up so that we don't, he talked about in December that we were holding back some of our bills because we didn't want to have to do short-term borrowing. We hadn't gotten enough aid in that we couldn't pay all our bills out right away. That is new behavior for us. When we had a healthy fund balance, we never had to worry about it. We could just pay our bills as they came in without having to worry about it. So that is new because of our shrinking resources. But when we put money at the end of the year into fund balance, the state pretends like we didn't spend it and we don't get aided on it. When you put money into a capital maintenance account like this one, Fund 46, the state treats it as if you've spent it and you get aided on it like you spent it.
So if we
So
have
there's a
extra at the end of
benefit.
the year, you put it there.
There's a benefit to doing that, but I think our highest priority is getting our fund balance up that we don't have to worry about short-term borrowing first. So, was that helpful, informative?
Awesome, super great.
Super great.
Super
I
great.
love it.
I
Super
like it.
great.
I totally love it. When we went to the conference, Brandon, were you with me that day? We went to
Possibly.
The
Which
PR, finance one, kids, or, I don't remember the title of it,
Sure.
but it was basically breaking it down. Because of the referendum, I think us being competent and able to talk about these things in layman terms is going to be a huge piece to the puzzle. Is there any way we can get in contact with the folks that might have hosted that and just have them kind of do a little bit of whether it be send out the board their slides, or it doesn't have to be intense, but it just gives us some.
So WASDA puts all those on their website, and I saved most of them that I went
Did
to,
you?
and
Okay.
so I'll be able
I
to
didn't save
pull
that.
it up again.
Will you send that to me? Yeah, thank you.
I'd like that too, please.
No problem.
So if we share with one board member, we usually share with all, so we'll send it out to everyone. So that was my, and my other district admin report. We are gonna pull together our handbook employee groups to review. We usually send out an all-call, anybody that's interested in coming to the table to talk about the language in the handbook. We schedule a time. Sometimes we've had a board representative sit in on that committee and sometimes not, and we just share back the recommended changes and the summary of the conversation. Is there anyone interested in sitting in on that handbook conversation?
When does it occur?
It usually is at 3:45 so that teachers don't have to leave and come back. If I want their participation, which
Yeah.
we do, it is nice to do it on their timeline.
This might actually flow into future agenda items too. Received some feedback and some emails regarding a situation that took place at one of the district schools about hate language, and was really very complicated. But I think that before I was on the board, I was part of the policy committee, and that hate speech was a policy that was being developed. Looked everywhere for it, can't find it. Thinking it might need to go in one of those handbooks. Would like to bring that up for a future agenda item.
So I have asked the policy committee representatives to fill out a doodle form so that we can get that next meeting scheduled. And I have those same sample policies. So our Neola representative does not have any sample hate speech policies. He has individual language that was shared with the policy committee previously that I was going to bring back to the new policy committee. I do not have, a lot of the policy committee members have not done the doodle poll yet for me to get that on the calendar. So my plan was to go through policy committee to gain some agreement on what language is appropriate, and then we can talk about where that language should live, whether it's in policy, handbooks, all of the above. Does that work for you?
So I'm hearing you. The one that we originally developed in the policy meeting before did not go through.
No,
Okay.
we could never gain consensus on the language.
I've been hounding Shelley on this more than she'd like.
That is not what I said.
I never
have
said you
gathered
said
some
it. I just said that you.
And I'm trying to use the appropriate channels by going through the policy committee so that that group can vet it first and make a recommendation to the full board is what I was hoping for. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just need to make sure it gets into, something
Yep.
needs to happen, because we can't keep moving through the world this way.
I'm just putting my sense, as I've said this to Shelley exactly, this is the lowest bar we need to clear. The absolute lowest.
Okay. Any handbook conversation? Anybody want to join the handbook or no?
Are they separate from the policy then?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, I will report back to the group after those groups meet and share feedback. I'm done with my district admin report.
All done.
All done.
10.3 WASB and other stuff.
I think I've updated everything. Lots of insurance talk at the moment.
Sorry, I didn't realize I went to sleep.
That time of year,
I'm not used to
everyone's
being this
talking about it.
person.
I've never known so much about insurance in my life.
Okay. Anything else? Or conference and workshop attendance stuff, it's kind of the same thing. Any debate? Nope.
One thing that used to be at the end that I took off because we were going to talk about it with the 6.3, there was interest during that conversation of us putting together some kind of calendar of events or encouraging our staff to do an intentional invitation to board members when they have something going on in their classroom, so that you are more apt to go and volunteer, knowing for sure that there's a spot for you.
So I appreciate when the teachers come in and present. I feel like it's asking a lot from them when they've already got so much going on. So I really love that idea. I also think if we could maybe divide it up intentionally amongst us, there might be like a way to tackle it so that they're not having to come in and be here so late. And I don't know, Alex and I did a robotics thing. It was so cool and it was so like meaningful, and I thought it was a really great way to like get a better snapshot. It's great to hear about it on the slideshow, but when you're like in the midst of it, it's so much cooler. So I think I enjoy that. I wonder if we can tackle it even a little bit more strategically.
Well, I do appreciate the emails, whether it's history fair judging or robotics things like that. Like if I hear the email, I can just look at my calendar and say yes or no. And if I don't hear the email, or honestly, even if I hear it here, I can't use my phone in a board meeting. So sometimes something will come up in the board meeting, I'm like, I have no idea whether I'll be free for that, because my calendar is complicated sometimes. But yeah, no, getting emails with possible times to interact is really helpful.
I like the calendar idea too.
All right, future agenda items.
More budget?
Okay.
I also have to schedule the board development session doodle, right?
And you said you would get back to us on the issue of Kayla raise?
Well, the policy committee is gonna do it,
Once
so
the policy
that
committee
policy
meets.
committee will bring it back to
When
the.
there's something to say.
Can we, yeah, kind of expedite that a little bit?
So you have representatives on the policy committee that haven't yet responded to the doodle, so if they could help me get a date down, then that can help everything move forward, so. I will reach out to those individuals again and nudge.
Any other agenda items? All right. Seeing none, the school board will adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 L and C for the purpose of considering performance evaluation data of administrative personnel and employment of public employees. Roll call.
Alice Woods,
Yes?
Michaela Conlon View,
Yes.